Ah, yes, I'm back. Um, there's going to be a little bit of background noise. I'm going to set up my fan because it's getting like giga hot in my room right now, and I don't know why. It's probably because my computer's on and it's only been like 50 or 60 outside lately, so the temperature's been going up quite a bit. These videos are very, very low effort. I'm gonna throw some images in the background. I'm sure you guys have already seen it at this point, but at the time of recording this, I wasn't sure how much effort I was gonna put in. But after having been recording these for like literally like an hour, I've done a few takes, but I think the crux of this is gonna probably be like 45 minutes when I thought it was gonna be like 10. Um, I'm gonna cut out some stuff that's really not important. Basically, Alice was a pathological liar, and like me and her had a lot of. God, actually, I don't even know where I stopped. Oh. So at that point, I went to go back to try to reconcile with Alice, try to figure out where we had gone wrong, get some sort of closure for the relationship. And me and her knew each other in real life. The relationship was IRL. I introduced her to Mind Z. Wow, Cyclone introducing people to the game, XD. So tried to reconcile with her, tried to figure out why things went wrong, if there was anything still there. Um, Tried to figure out if she was still up to her old antics of lying about cheating, and she was. So nothing really happened there other than a couple weeks of. We went on probably like maybe like 2 or 3 dates. We hung out probably a couple more times outside of going places and doing things. And at that point, I had asked Irish before I went to do that to remove me from some UTC channels. This is a side story. I actually am recording like the last half of this over again because my headphones turned off, and that's 100% a rip. And after recording that, I was like, oh, maybe I don't want to talk about that. I also realized that while pacing around, my sentences were kind of shit. I don't have a script for this. I'm just kind of rambling on. At this point, I had taken a leave. Irish and Gunn had told First that they didn't want First to train people anymore, so now the training regiment was a regiment. First just kind of caved in. He didn't know what he was doing. I didn't give him any tools to know what he was doing. He'd only been in the UTC for maybe like, I don't know, like, actually he'd been in the UTC for probably about 4 months at that point. So he had been there for a bit. But regardless, the training regiment stopped training people. Shortly thereafter, we were going to be the 501st. Uh, this is when the African Warlord nickname for me and Becky started. We God Likes Pie was like giga shitty to people and like really toxic, and I'll stand by this to the day. Stand by that to this day. Like he was like harassing people and just really annoying. And I was still a bit immature back then. I say a bit because it was definitely a lapse in judgment. I actually wasn't around for this. I was on vacation in Florida, and I'd just been hearing more and more stories about how God was a problem child. Ferch and Joe wanted to get rid of him, and I was 100% on board. I was like, let's do it. And then Joe was like, I have some stuff on God Likes Pie's accounts. And I was like, why don't you wait for him to log in for an event, crit him out, like court-martial him, and then take the stuff off his alts. What wound up happening is God Likes Pie didn't show up to the event, so they took the stuff off of his alts anyways. I gave them one of my accounts to fill up, and then I think Birch gave them an account to fill up, or Joe had another account to fill up, somewhere along those lines. And then they dropped the accounts in the lava. And I was like, oh, look, lovely. I wasn't there for any of this, so I found out about this afterwards. So at this point, after the next day, God Likes Pie is like, what the fuck? Goes and like bitches to Gunn. Gunn was very anti me at this point because I was close to getting directory, not super super close anymore. This event was pretty much the nail in the coffin because Irish was like, what right did you have to do this? So then me, Ferch, and Joe and our brilliancy were like, alright, so what did he do that was a problem? Because we had already had a list, but we're like, is there anything else we can add? So we added some things, we got some first-hand testaments, and they went through each point. They're like, do you have physical evidence? And we're like, what do you want, like a recording of every single thing? And they're like, yes. And we're like, brah. There was some stuff on there that just didn't happen. But pretty much Irish and Gunn wanted definitive proof of every single thing that ever happened. And I'm like, that system just doesn't work. Tell you what, from my time in TB and other trials I've seen in Mine Z, trial systems do not work very well. The person usually gets off free, or if they don't get off free, you have to deal with them for a month longer than you should to collect enough evidence. Like Prompted, when he was spying on TB for S-Class the whole summer, holy shit, we had spent so long collecting evidence. And then at the end of it, he almost got out of it for free. Thanks, Jam. Jam was his fucking lawyer. TB was such an interesting place. It just didn't fucking work for a Mine Z clan, though. I'm gonna be real. It was very nice. I won't say it was actually a very toxic culture. It was a nice idea, though. Back to the main portion of the story. We get branded as African warlords. Godlix Pie joins the 93rd Regiment. And we all hate him. We all hate the 93rd to begin with. Now we hate them even more. There's a lot of resentment at this point in the UTC. As the summer went on, I would say the resentment grew, but not really that much. It kind of stagnated at a point where both of us weren't very happy with each other, at least the leadership of each of the groups. Silver was a lot more chill than Gun ever was. But the 93rd was the 93rd inactive that summer? I can't quite remember. I think, yeah, the 93rd had their own problem. I could talk about the UTC for literally hours. The 93rd had their own problem at that point. A few actually up to that point. Like there was like the Alice coup. Alice was actually in charge of the 93rd when that all went down. Some people left before that because Alice was in charge of the 93rd. And basically, Gunn didn't really have very many legs to stand on, but he still he still opposed me into next fucking year, literally. So over that summer, Furch gets company member. I don't think Irish really. At that point, Irish kind of stepped back. He would appoint me to lead various things. He would scold me from time to time, like when we were fighting DB. He was like, "Why are you fighting them?" He's like, "Why?" I'm like, "They put us on the KOS list." And he was like, "Okay." He's like, "Why didn't you like rally anybody, like try to get anything together? You just went and fought them on your own?" I'm like, "Yeah, we can fight them on their own." He's like, "You lost to the Koreans and Night's Watch and Dawn Brigade combined, though." And I was like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "That's kind of a problem." I was like, "I don't think we're gonna be able to beat that combination of a group." And Irish was like, "You don't say." He was like, "See, now this is my problem." Irish wasn't happy with me because of that. I remember that conversation very specifically. Irish claimed to have done something about that, but also at that point I had been playing political games. Sorry, Connor. I kind of misled Connor into thinking that he was going to solve Dom Brigade's problem of fighting the 501st and put himself back into a position of power because Jam had dislodged Connor whilst being drunk. Thanks, Jam. You actually set me up, bro. Like for real. And Dawn Brigade surrenders to us. I'd solved the problem. Then Irish claimed that Shrugger played a huge role in that. I'm like, Shrugger didn't do shit other than give me the website that somebody else had also given to me, like a day after Shrugger gave it to me. I'm like, so I don't know what you're going on about. You didn't really do a hell of a lot. If you want to be all secretive about it and not have any of your definitive proof, then I'm not going to listen to anything you have to say. This was a point where me and Irish really started to drift apart. Because this is a point where I felt like I'd started to do a lot of things on my own without Irish's help or support. He pretty much branded the 501st as second-class citizens and then took credit for any good thing that we did. Pretty much it was like Irish's premium regiment, where if you do anything bad, you're not really UTC, kind of, sort of, but not authentic, like Aspermont Regiment UTC. That doesn't make sense for anybody who wasn't in the UTC, but Irish would take credit for any good thing we did and anything bad thing we did, just like fucking shit on us and then to next year for it. That's a fun phrase. I love using that phrase. So, Irish is like an asshole to us. He does the same thing in Spooky Fest. Me and Joe did more work than I did. I put together like an alliance network that didn't really work because we allied with Dawn Brigade, but then the only people who really did things was like Budhorns, Kitty, and Shaman. I think Shaman did things. I'm pretty sure Shaman did things. Jam went to like 2 things, but Jam pretty much wasn't active in DB at that point, so like anything Jam was trying to do kind of fell apart. That was one thing that Jam was trying to do, so it didn't really go too well. So at this point, the Irish takes credit for everything that we did. Joe was pissed more than I was, and Joe also hadn't gotten company member at this point. I don't remember if I mentioned, but first got company member summer 2017. And then Joe was mad. I was mad. I also was like failing 2 classes at that point, so I was like, look, I'm like, I gotta take a leave for a bit so I can not fail this class, because it's kind of important. It was really shitty too, because I wound up getting like a B in one of the classes that I was failing. The other one I got like a C plus, but like I went gig inactive, and Joe actually did a decent job of taking care of things, but I mean it's Joe, so he had a tendency to kind of miss events sometimes that he planned, and I was like, brah. The first one he ever planned, he missed. He missed another one somewhere in there too. That one I just canceled for him because I was like, I have an exam the next day, and I was like, I can't cover for him on this. So at that point, I went inactive. Joe takes over. At some point in there was some things that happened between Furch and Joe and I, and Furch went and joined the 93rd. I don't really think that has much to do, if at all, with Irish. So my headphones are still going, right? Yep. Okay. So at this point, pretty much, we promote Whoopi maybe like 2 weeks after that, and then Irish puts me on trial for all of his list of charges that he was going to let me crash and burn. Irish wanted me to crash and burn since I had gone to go talk to Alice, and he was letting me crash and burn for the past 6 months. At this point, he puts me on trial for a list of charges. Gonna add some charges. Gunn actually had some good points. Not on, I would say not entirely on Iris, because she didn't have a problem with it. But there were other girls that had joined the UTC that I didn't treat the best. I'm just gonna be honest here. Live and learn. If you noticed, anybody who probably played in tin with me, I don't really tend to hit on the girls anymore because, for one, at this point, most of them are not legal. And for two, I've just learned from many years of experience that usually doesn't work out. And usually it scares them off and they leave. So I usually actually tell people not to hit on the girls, and that through another person in the clan, stop trying to fuck them. That's something Irish told me that took me a long time to agree with. But Irish so went after the e-girls, but not the e-girls in the clan. It's like, it's such a fucked up lesson to try to learn. Man, that guy has so many layers. Anyways, back to the meat and potatoes. Gunn's actual substantial charges that misled wrong girls Gunn. There was actually a few recruits that Silver Foxwolf. I think Gunn actually brought her up. I scared her off 100%. Gunn was right. And Gunn brings up all these sexual harassment charges. I think he only ever brought up 2. One of them was just not right. But Irish goes, sexual harassment doesn't exist. Next charge. And I fucking lost it. It was the funniest shit, man. I was like, alright, Irish. And, things like that make me think, was Irish, seriously, saying sexual harassment doesn't exist? Or was he trying to have my back? There was so many different little moments in there where in the heat of the moment, I couldn't read into it. And after a couple of years, I've looked back on this stuff, and it's hard to tell exactly where his mind is at. Maybe he wanted to see how I was going to react to the situation, but too long didn't read. Irish demotes me from my position of being in charge of my regiment, but they don't take away my company member. I think they knew if they took away my company member, I was for sure just going to say fuck it and leave. But regardless, at that point, I called Whoopi and Joe into a meeting at 1 o'clock in the morning, and Joe didn't want to, but Whoopi did, and Joe was like, yeah, majority rules, democracy, and I was like, yeah, democracy, and we just said, fuck it, and me and Whoopi left. In the coming months, I had some run-ins with Irish. Irish was just, really toxic at that point to me. He treated me like an enemy, and I was trying to stay cordial with him, but looking back on it, I was pretty much stealing his members. 100% just stealing his members. And there was eventually going to be a fight between TB and the UTC. It was just going to take time, and Irish was trying to prevent as many people from leaving as possible. So I understand why he did what he did, but back down to it, I don't know when Irish demoted me if he was actually trying to rehabilitate me again, or if this was a long scheme from mainly Gunn and partially him to just demote me and remove me from my position in the clan. And I don't know if they eventually wanted to get me out of the clan entirely, but they didn't want me to be in charge anymore. So I really don't know where Irish was at all those years ago. Like 2 years and like 4 months now ago that this happened, and I don't really know where Irish was at. I really couldn't tell you. But at the time, I thought I knew where he was, and I was like, he's 100% trying to demote me. Like, guns on his side. At this point, I'd still been fairly paranoid about most things in the game. I think I've gotten a bit more relaxed over the years, considering that I let somebody in my clan who spied for me, which I can't recall any times I've done that. I'm sure I have, but they were like not associated to me spying for me, and then I would like let them in my clan. That was just dumb. I'm sorry, Jay. That was dumb on us. Got too soft over the years, but yeah, I don't know where Irish was at now. I'm gonna praise Irish a little bit, and you might be surprised. Like Cyclone praising Irish, the guy taught me a lot. I would not be where I was in that game without Irish teaching me what he taught me, and most of you who were taught by me wouldn't be where you were if Irish hadn't taught me. I know it's a bit of a stretch, but Irish taught me how to lead people. I had already had a fair bit of leadership experience at my point in joining the game, but Irish pretty much took my skills and showed me how to apply them to the game. I'd like to think I was able to do that for a few different people out there. You know who you are. If I gave you any sort of side training for more than a couple of weeks, you were probably groomed to some extent to be a leader. Like Soul leaving after a month of it. Like I had like a 3-month long training program towards the end of 10 where teaching people how to lead was a thing. But Soul left a month into it, which is a rip. To be fair, he kind of got the furthest out of everyone, including Jay. Jay didn't make it very far. Jay had some skill sets, but like it was really hard to teach Jay. I love you, Jay, but you're a bit difficult to work with at times. So actually, I want to take that back. He's not difficult to work with. It's just him being in charge and leading a group specifically is just not his skill set. That's just a little bit wrong there. Now, I don't really like Irish, to be completely honest with you. I think he's a bit too set in his ways, and there's a lot of complexities to him. I don't entirely know if he puts out his persona to protect people at various times, or if he's proud of it. It's really, really difficult to know, and I know some people feel differently than others. Obviously, people in the UTC either ignore him or think that he's putting it out there, probably as some side thing they don't. Oh god, I gotta cut this. Alright, too long didn't read summary. Irish teaches me things, I teach other people things. Well, a lot of the stuff I was able to apply in my leadership skills were because Irish showed me how to do so. It's really, I wanted to say something to Irish, actually, I wanted to, like, write him a message to thank him, but the longer I thought about it, the less I wanted to do it, just because of the way he treated me after, the whole, like, 501st situation went down. I think at that point, he hadn't entirely cracked the code of how to get through to me. I'm not going to go into the personal reasons on how to do that. I think I've outlined that enough at the start of this sequence. And he was just really unhappy with the way things had ended up. And yeah, so not really a fan of the guy. But he taught me a lot. And for those of you who don't like me, you know, probably could have taught you a lot of stuff. How to make things about you. That's just a me thing. But anyways, for anybody who watched this whole fucking series, hats off. I think I spent probably about an hour plus recording this, so I'm gonna throw it in the Movie Maker now. It's not gonna be one video. It's probably gonna be like 3-ish.